I'd like to call to order the Public Works and Engineering Services Committee meeting for November the 28th. Invocation and pledge. Form this morning. Pleasure.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Johnson, we good with that?
Lewis, ready for your approval, Mr. Chairman.
Presentation of consent right into the debate. Morning.
Morning, how are y'all? So the first item I have for you is a bid award and contract with Blair Construction for the White Oak Phase 2 lift station water main. Back in May of 2022, the Board of Commissioners entered an intergovernmental agreement with the Development Authority to bid and oversee this project. We've done the road portion, the storm portion, and a portion of the sewer. This is the final part of that to install the water main. The Development Authority has already purchased, also to install the lift station and the remaining sewer. We'll oversee the project, and it will be reimbursed by the Development Authority. Staff recommends approval.
Move to consent.
Second.
So moved.
The second item I have for you is the rejection of bid for the Crawford Creek reuse water system. Our goal was to create a reuse system at Crawford Creek that would allow us to use plant effluent to do some of the service water activities throughout the plant, not use potable water, which obviously taxes our water treatment plant. Unfortunately, the bids came in extremely high. Because of that, staff is going to sit down and look at value engineering and see if we can't do some of this in-house, but we do ask to reject the bid.
Move to consent.
Second.
The third item I have for you is the purchase of Hach turbidimeters. A turbidimeter measures the turbidity. We use these on filter effluent. Actually, if the turbidimeter is out of service, so is the filter. So it's a critical piece of equipment for our water treatment plant. In 2007, the existing units were installed as a part of the filter upgrade, so we've gotten good use out of them, but they're at end of life, no longer supported by Hach. So this would actually allow us to upgrade the units at the Blanchard water treatment plant. We already used the unit we're asking for at Clarks Hill, so this is a sole source request, and it would allow us to really have one repository for spare parts as opposed to having several different types of emitters throughout the county. Staff recommends approval.
Cycle that long?
So the 1720D, which is the unit that's currently installed, had a very, very long life cycle. Actually, I had to go through the same process when I was with City of Savannah. And they do last a good long while.
Second.
And the final item I have for you is a water line encroachment agreement for the Magnolia Drive project. This is to allow us to go across the Georgia Power easement to provide water to the backside of Magnolia Drive. There will be more items coming before you in reference to tap fees, but this is kind of the first step in the Drive project.
Service the whole Magnolia Drive, or is this?
So we've reached out to the citizens on that road. We've only gotten 2 who are interested. A large portion. The final amount has not been negotiated yet. We needed to make sure we could actually cross Georgia Power prior to finalizing negotiations, which obviously will come before you.
Move to consent.
So moved. Titus, I believe you're up.
Morning.
Morning.
No.
First few items we have are a couple of safety light proposals with Georgia Power. The first is a safety light at Harlem, Grovetown Road in Louisville Brown Circle, Louisville Road, Brown Circle. Staff received a request to install a safety light at this intersection. We performed a warrant study and it met 2 of the 7 criteria. We reached out to Georgia Power and requested a proposal to install a safety light. There's already an existing pole there, so there's no upfront cost with the pole. The annual utility cost would be $363 per year, which would be paid out of IPTL. Staff recommends approval.
Move.
The second is a proposed safety light at General Wood Parkway, where the crosswalk is just west of Greenbrier High School. Similarly, we received a request to look at safety measures at this crosswalk. We performed a safety lighting warrant study, and it is a crosswalk that crosses a local road which meets criteria. We reached out to Georgia Power and requested a proposal to install a safety light. The upfront cost would be $428.88 with an annual utility cost of $262.20. It would also be funded out of IPTF. Staff recommends approval.
Second.
Moved.
The next item we have is the purchase of replacement traffic signal equipment along the Lewiston Road corridor from Presidio. There's 5 signals, traffic cabinets, and then there's one school zone flasher at Lewiston Elementary, just north of Columbia Road. Going back through the history on this, I think the original intent was to include the signal equipment with the signal purchased for the Lewiston Road widening project. There was some confusion during the bidding of the project, but it was clarified that this particular equipment was not included in the Lewiston Road project. So it has not been paid for. It's not in the current contract. Signal equipment, so the mast arms, the lights, that's in that contract, but the software, the network switches, the power supply cabling, that's not in the contract. However, the current cabinets these systems in the current cabinets are reaching their life cycle replacement, their year-end life cycle replacement schedules. So we need to upgrade it. We have a sole source contract with Presidio. We've reached out to them and gotten a quote for all 6 upgrades for $76,395.08. Once staff receives it, it will be installed, which is about 6 months out. It will be funded out of TIA.
Lewis, all the service before this happens, right?
They will, and
Will be able to operate.
yes, sir. They'll continue running on the current systems. However, the current systems are reaching their life cycle end. So being 6 months out, we feel certain it's best to go ahead and order that so we can have it in and install basically whenever Lewiston Road's coming online.
How long does the signal go down when you receive equipment and install it? Down or while it's being installed?
What happens is we'll switch to basically the default signal. So it'll go through a default cycle while we're upgrading this smart technology inside the signal. So it doesn't go down.
Second.
So moved.
The next item is our 2024 LMIG, or Local Maintenance Improvement Grant through GDOT. Each year, as you know, we apply for this grant and we receive somewhere between $1.5 and $2 million. That requires a 10% match. The 2024 allocation equates to $1,833,350.30. Staff's assembled the list on the sheet in front of you. The list is a little smaller than normal for a couple reasons. Main reason is because we've had a available road construction engineer position out for about a year, so we're still short-staffed. In addition to one of our more senior road construction engineers, Mr. Ronnie Hutto, who's been with us for 26 years, leaves at the beginning of the year, retires at the beginning of the year. In addition, we also have about 75 roads under contract currently between 2023 LMIG and TIA 2 resurfacing program, in addition to the large widening projects. So we have a lot going on. So working with county management, Mr. Slaughter, we've decided to keep this list short in the immediate. And as staff is able to catch up with these contracts and these contractors, as the need arises, we'll work with county management and the board in identifying additional funding as may be needed to keep the resurfacing projects going on. And I'll remind you too that beginning the first quarter in 2024, we will be letting a group 3 of TIA 2 resurfacing projects, which will be another 5 to 6 roads. The match for this will be paid out of 1722 SPLOST. This is simply for the application. Staff recommends approval of the application, the project list for the application, and authorization for the chairman to execute the required documentation for the application.
Move to consent.
So moved.
Add-on question. Have a list of the road surfacing projects, because there were a ton in D. Water Department gives us a list here of the projects, and had the same thing for the research.
Absolutely, we'll add it to the staff reports.
Had it updated, yep. Okay, the next item is Resolution 23-54 and the project delivery agreement with GDOT for the Ooch Creek Greenway, all remaining phases. Tier 2 includes $12.9 million in funding for this project. Board recently approved a contract with Benish to update the plans to acquire permits, and acquire permits for the section between Wrightsboro Road and Canterbury Farms through SPLOST, 1722 SPLOST. This is the PDA basically for all the remaining phases of the Ooch Creek Greenway project. If and when the board approves this PDA and GDOT as well, then we will reach out to engineering firms to procure design services for these phases. Staff recommends approval of the PDA and the resolution.
For, way is on tier 2. All of this to move forward.
The approval to allow, for GDOT to allow us to deliver the remaining phases.
What is the timetable?
Probably 3 to 4 years in design. Now, before the final design's completed, we would hopefully have started construction. So I would say probably 8 years. Complete it all, Mr. Slaughter.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big project. We got environmental to go through. We got a lot of design to go through. Not a lot of right-of-way acquisition on this one. Behind most of that right-of-way acquisition. But design, permitting, it'll take a while to get it all built out.
Probably would likely be multiple projects, not just one project.
We will progress throughout this. Finish lines.
Yeah, we can definitely break it into sections. You know, maybe the phase 1 is William Few from Patriots Park to Washington Road and get that piece done. That way, we got to look for a logical termini. In that case, you would have the sidewalks on Washington Road. So if we can get William Few built, now you just opened up Evans all the way down to William Few. So we'll look at phasing it when we go through our design process. Problem.
Move to consent as long as it happens before I die.
Promise anything, you go.
Second.
So move.
Okay, this next item is an independent contractor agreement with Keck & Wood for the Clanton Road Improvement Project. We're asking you approve an independent contract with Keck & Wood in the amount of $310,300 to design the paving of Clanton Road. Beginning at William Few Parkway, it'll go up through Old Washington Road, through a roundabout, and then tie into Washington Road at General Wood Parkway. In addition, there will be a sidewalk to the east and a multi-use path to the west that will continue on past Washington and tie in at Colonnades Drive sidewalk to complete that portion. This will be funded out of Tier 2. Staff recommends approval.
Move to consent.
So move.
This next item is an independent contractor agreement with Cranston Engineering for engineering services on Horizon South Chamberlain Road Connector project. The board approved a contract with Cranston Engineering earlier this year to go through a concept development phase. We've reached substantial completion on that project. We've since asked Cranston for a proposal to design the roadway project to deliver to construction. They've provided a proposal. We've gone through 2 iterations of negotiations, and we've agreed, we've come to an agreement of $722,612, delivery schedule of 12 months, which is fairly aggressive, but we do think it's doable. It's funded out of 2328 SPLOST. Staff recommends approval.
On the not me line, is there any like that, like that's for 12 months, but that's what they're agreeing, not meet that 12 months, okay, or what's the deal?
Whatever they do to that point, so any survey, design, geotech, et cetera, we own. So we have the opportunity to pull the contract if we want to. We can always stop payment until they deliver a design. There are multiple options. And we're not usually hard and fast. You know, day one of the 13-month, we're in the contract, we usually don't go that far, but it is a way to measure, you know, at 6 months, are we about halfway done with the design? Are we ready to get to the next phase? So I think it's a achievable schedule. I think we will deliver the project in 12 to 14 months. I'd feel confident saying that.
A lot of when it comes to design contract, setting a timeline up front is basically used so they can determine the cost because they have to allocate their resources. So if you give them,
I get it.
yeah, give them 5 years, you'll get a much better cost. Give them 12 months, you're gonna get a higher cost because they got to bring in more people to work it. With this one, the biggest hurdle as far as timeline goes is the environmental permit. We are crossing over some pretty serious wetlands, some state waters, probably some waters of the U.S. All that goes through permitting through the Corps. We're hoping to keep it as a nationwide permit instead of individual permit, but if you run into an environmental issue that is out of our control, we are literally at the mercy of federal regulators to give us our permits.
I understand that, but
Oh,
again,
yeah.
whole different
Right,
subject.
right,
Reason I'm asking the questions because I'm dealing with engineers that are dragging.
right.
And the billing don't drag, the billing shows up. Results are dragging.
So we've been very clear with the engineer for this one and the previous contract for Clanton Road that we're not looking for the GDOT plan development process, which is a very long process. We are looking for a very straightforward design, very straightforward process, constructible. So we're hoping that facilitates the design schedule. But Mr. Slaughter is right, the permits are the critical path. That's one reason we've chosen to go with a bridge on the Horizon South Chamberlain connector and not a large culvert, because with a large culvert, we'd have to get permitting, much more permitting through EPD, EPA, and FEMA. But the bridge helps minimize a lot of that.
In my mind, this is one of a project that can have probably the impact. I said it. Get it there.
Second.
So moved.
The next item is Resolution 23-56. It's initial resolution regarding abandonment of a portion of parcel 078B051P at Wheeler Road and Flowing Wells Road. Essentially, about 28 years ago, when the I-20 Wheeler Road interchange was constructed, the Wheeler Road was rerouted from currently where Flowing Wells is rerouted over the interstate, and the remnant portion was renamed Flowing Wells Road. In that reconfiguration, there was a remnant portion of land that was left, originally acquired with the Wheeler Road. The original Wheeler Road right away for that project, that remnant was still there. The property owner adjacent, or property owner of the parent parcel that land came from was Mr. Michael Lazar. He approached county staff a few months ago about abandoning that portion of right-of-way and presenting us with a deed from 1965, GDOT deed, right-of-way deed that showed that in case the right-of-way that the county acquired at that time or DOT acquired at that time, right-of-way is abandoned as highway, the same shall revert back to the original property from taken. We've met with Mr. Slaughter, we've met with staff and have reviewed this heavily, and we've are bringing to you today a resolution to abandon all but 0.02 acres, which we would like to pay for right-of-way for maintenance just beyond the curb of the Flowing Wells project. No funding required, abandoning 0.63 acres, and which, if approved by the board, there will be a 2-week advertising period followed by a public hearing. And then the committee will have the opportunity to propose a second resolution at the following board meeting. If the board passes the second resolution, the property will be abandoned. Staff recommends approval.
Bid on it and buy it, or does it say it goes straight, back to him?
Deed says it goes back to him, reverts back to the parent parcel.
Move to consent.
Second.
So move.
This next item is acceptance of improvements from the Development Authority of Columbia County that are located on parcel 072548 beyond Evans Fitness Center. Their parking lot, parcel that the apartments are being developed, Grand Oaks Development is developing, and a section of sewer, gravity sewer was relocated to accommodate a building footprint. So it's just 2 portions between essentially 3 manholes, and a new manhole was installed. Staff recommends accepting the new sewer, the easements associated with it, and abandoning the existing in those locations.
Second.
So move.
And the last item is acceptance of improvements for Wrights Farm, Section 3, to include the road, storm, water, and sanitary sewer, along with the rights-of-ways and easements associated with those improvements. Staff recommends approval. Yes, sir, that's correct.
And
Second.
So move. Driver, any legal items? Reports?
Yeah, so for you, I have the year-to-date budget report as well as the year-to-date construction report, prepared to answer any questions.
Phone calls received. Quality call.
Yeah,
Together, we went through an issue back in.
that's correct. So yeah, we did have a nice little plug of dirty water calls that it increases the calls as well as the water qualities. So you'll see most of our numbers were up. Anything in reference to customer service, you know, our lab has to do some more testing, our field staff have to do more flushing. It's a huge pull on our resources, but we made it through.
So the reason problems in calls, was that pipe, or was that low water levels at drawing from? What?
You know, we're seeing higher manganese than we have traditionally, and a lot of that can be attributed to the level of the lake. That manganese sits on the benthic zone right at the bottom of the lake, and when you let it just sit there and be low, it accumulates. So we're seeing higher levels than we typically would see. We also had very low flows this summer. We had a very cool summer, a lot of rain, and then we had a very dry late September, October, so folks started watering. When you change the velocity in the pipe that quickly, it does cause some of these issues. We also do have a lot of construction. You keep adding pennies together and you get $1. And that was this October. But we have got great staff and we made it through.
Like we have pipe issues behind us, or that we're going
Yep.
to address in the future? I mean, people really get concerned when they run their bath water and it's not crystal clear. You know,
That's
they
right.
just get concerned.
When we're working, you'll see soon before you will come ice pigging. Ice pigging's a tool that we use. We're also working with a contractor to look at mechanically pigging some of these lines. It's a very difficult thing to do. It's going to take a lot of resources, but we're trying to gather an idea of how much that will cost. So we're working on that, and then I do believe that the UVAOP will have an impact. So getting that online is a critical path as well.
Coloration in water doesn't mean water is not safe.
That's correct.
Commissioners or public comment?
Make a motion, we move into the full board.
We are adjourned at 9:25.